update that we're going to get into first, and we're going to talk about Ange's comments in the press conference on Mickey van der Ven, and he says Van der Ven isn't ready to face Liverpool and confirms that he hasn't re-injured himself. And the quote is, with Mickey and Romero to a certain extent, it's about being conservative with them. Mickey got through the 45 minutes at Elfsborg, but he feels he's not ready to step up to Premier League level as of yet, but does confirm that Matthis Tel and Kevin Danso are available to face Liverpool.
Yeah, which is really great news, and we're going to need them, I think, because we still have, as Ange confirmed, around 10 players out still for that game. So still a mammoth task ahead, we know, on Thursday, and it's a massive game in our season in terms of what we can achieve. But when it comes to Van der Ven, I think we have to just take it at the moment in terms of him. He says he's being conservative. He says he's being very careful. The weird thing, I guess, is that he obviously played 45 minutes against Elfsborg, and Ange said on Sunday that he was keeping him on ice, and the plan was originally to play him 45 minutes against Brentford, and they decided that given the quick turnaround, they'll just keep him on ice for the weekend. And then all these rumours start flying around that he's injured, and potentially some even said needs surgery. And now he's saying he's not re-injured. We're just being super careful and cautious with him. Now, is he kind of, I guess, covering his arse when he says that? Has he re-injured himself, and he's kind of just slowly trying to break the news to us that he has re-injured himself and they're hiding it from us? Or is it genuinely just not a re-injury? And obviously what he is saying is following on from what Paul O'Keefe said on deadline day, which is that he said he felt something. He said that he didn't feel right, and that's why he didn't play, rather than a re-injury. So if that is the case, he kind of implied he's going to wait until after that midweek break that we have after the Villa game to bring him back into the fold, which is a shame, because the hope was we would have them fit for this game, and that would really give us a real boost, I think, going to Anfield, having the likes of Van der Ven and maybe Romero back. But it seems as though we're being super, super cautious.
Yeah, I guess only time will tell with what the actual story is. But as of now, as of the Liverpool game, Van der Ven will not be playing, and he is out for that game. In terms of Tel and Danso, obviously very positive that they made the cut for the squad, and they're going to see some sort of game time. He did say on Danso, he was asked if he's going to start, and he says, haven't made the decision yet, but he's definitely going to see some sort of game time, whether it be from the start or coming off the bench. Yeah,
I think he will start, just because Davis and Gray, especially Gray, has been playing a lot of minutes over the last few months, and he's not a natural centre-back. I think I know kind of Danso will kind of be coming in cold, and apparently as well over the last few months he hasn't actually played that much football, Danso, because they've had a midweek break, and he's also been on the bench a few games. So Danso, whether he's fresh he's going to be fresh, but whether he's sharp is a question for going into this game. But he's experienced. He can play the system that we play, with the kind of aggressive nature that he does, and he does fit the style of play we like to operate in. So I think I would start him. I think Gray has done brilliant. I know he was part of the back two that kept a clean sheet in the first leg, so you could argue if he did it one game, he can do it at Anfield. But Anfield,
he was also part of a back two that conceded 6.
That's also true, and Anfield's a different kettle of fish, and I think I'd be more comfortable with him and Davis, Danso and Davis at the back, than I would be with Gray. And I think as much as it is throwing him kind of into the fire straight away, and it's a lot of pressure on him, I think he can handle it, and he's used to these pressure moments. He's played in big tournaments. He's played Champions League football. He can play in these big games. So I'm, as much as, yes, there's a chance that we could throw him in and go wrong, I think it's probably worth doing in this kind of game. But then, can he start 2 games in a week? Can he start against Liverpool and against Villa as well? We have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. But in terms of if he can only start one of these games, I don't see why he can't start 2. If he can only start one of these games, I'd much prefer it to be this one than the Villa game, that's for sure.
It's a bigger game, and yeah, and I guess the more interesting one is Tel, because I think Danso, we kind of, by choice, lack of options, we kind of have to play him, in my opinion. But with Tel, do we play Decky on the right? I guess we'll go through on our predicted lineup, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with Tel, because obviously he's come here to get minutes. He's clearly wanted to leave Bayern Munich because he wants to play regularly. And I know it's early on, and I know it's straight away within a few days of signing, but with Richarlison maybe rush back a bit. Maybe he's probably played more minutes than he should have since coming back, Richarlison, because of, again, injuries to Solanke and whatnot. Son's...
I mean, they have been very careful with Richarlison, because I know they would have preferred Solanke to ease in the burden a bit, but he was fit for 2 weeks before they even gave him 1 minute.
Sorry, who was that? Richarlison. He was fit for 2 weeks. Yeah, but I remember when he first came on against Everton, he said he shouldn't really have played 45 minutes, and he had to because Solanke got injured and probably played longer than he wanted to. He then started a game after Maddison said he's nowhere near starting games. And yes, they've been managing his minutes, don't get me wrong, but they probably would have liked to have eased him in a bit more than they have, in my opinion. And obviously he is playing a lot of minutes at the moment. He's been coming off, I think, around the 80th minute last couple of games. So I think there's a chance that maybe Tel comes in up front. Obviously, Son's been playing every minute for the last few weeks, a lot of the time, apart from, obviously, came off at half-time against Elfsborg, but he's been playing a lot. And Decky's been playing a lot of minutes and out of position on the right-hand side. And is it a chance to give Tel a run out on that situation and give Decky some time in the middle? So a lot of interesting decisions he's got to make when it comes to Tel as well on this game.
Yeah, and more on Matthis Tel. Loic Tanzi said yesterday that Levy flew into Munich last week because Johan Lang feared that his meeting and presentation with Tel didn't have the desired impact. After meeting with Levy, Tel communicated that he wasn't going to join Spurs. It was as much about showing that he wouldn't be forced into something by Bayern Munich as it was by not being convinced by Spurs. Then Sunday evening, Ange Postecoglou spoke with Tel over the phone. Postecoglou put forward of how he planned to use Tel, expressed how much he valued Tel's versatility and speed, and expressed that he thought Tel could torment Premier League defences with his qualities. It was a long and concrete speech, and it scored points with Tel, who appreciated the coach focusing on his plans for him on the pitch as opposed to the project that the management tried to sway him with. And then Monday morning, the player decided to go to Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, so very interesting stuff. I think that's I felt like, in terms of the permanent transfer that we agreed with Tel, that very much felt like, as much as Tel maybe wants to get more minutes, the fact that Bayern agreed that transfer and they were trying to push it through did say to me that they were kind of forcing him in down that line, and Tel maybe wasn't completely comfortable agreeing to a permanent so quickly and for committing his long-term future here, which is probably why he agreed to a loan. When it comes to like Chelsea trying to hijack, we did hear about Chelsea's interest before we were interested, and he was saying,
I haven't even got to that part yet.
Oh, sorry, apologies, but yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the first part you were talking about, I think it's right that Matthis Tel takes time to consider this decision, because he's 19. He's at a big club like Bayern. He played 60 games for them. I know he didn't quite come for their academy. He was signed, actually, I think, for around 20 million from Bayern when he was 16, but from Rennes. And I think it was always probably his ambition to be a long-term kind of player for Bayern. So kind of ending that dream, a couple years in, is probably a tough decision to make, and he has to make the right call. So whether he rejected us initially or whether he was just taking time in his decision, maybe it was a rejection in a sense that he said, no, I'm not coming on a permanent, I'm not going to be pushed towards it. But when he assessed every other option, he was like, I think Tottenham actually might be the best fit, which I think, in general, it might be true.
So, yeah, like you said, Chelsea did try and hijack the deal for Tel as the player was getting ready to fly to London. The attempt was in vain, however, as the player decided that he did want to join Tottenham Hotspur. So the Ange Postecoglou pull is real. I mean, how many times have we heard players just being convinced by Ange Postecoglou and his presentations about the club?
Well, we did hear about Chelsea's interest before even our interest was concrete, I think.
Chelsea was the first team that we
had
interest from.
Plettenberg, I think, said quite early on that Tel didn't want Chelsea because he felt like the competition for places was too high and he wasn't guaranteed the minutes. Obviously, in his position, you got the likes of Sancho, you got Neto can play in that position. So coming in there, and also Jackson still scoring, decent amount of goals. You got Nkunku there as well. Obviously, they tried to throw in Nkunku in the deal to get Tel in, didn't they? And they kind of just couldn't agree a deal there. But I think it makes sense from Tel's position. I think this is what I was saying as well when it comes to not Ange himself, but the way we play, that it's good for forward players. You know, we are, whatever you want to say about where we are in the league, and it's not good, but we're still the second or third highest scorers in the league, even in the position that we're in. So that shows that even when we're playing badly and even in the situation that we are in, he will get chances and he can shine, even in the system. Even if the team itself aren't doing well, he can still get chances for himself and score plenty of goals. And even if he plays on the wing, I know there were reports that he wants to play up front and he wants to kind of see himself as a number 9, but all we have to do is look at the positions that like Brennan takes up when he's on the wing in the box, and you can see that Tel can use his striker instincts even playing on the wing in our system, and I think that would have been quite appealing to him.
And Ange as well was speaking about Tel in the press conference, and he says, people need to understand we're talking about a 19-year-old player with a major decision. It's not so much about rejecting us or anyone. He wanted to be comfortable with the decision. He didn't want to be pushed in a certain direction, and credit to him. I had a conversation with him and purely around football, and that I think he'll find a great place here in terms of where he is in his career. We've shown irrespective of age he'll get an opportunity, and the way we play will suit him, and what we have in the next few months and beyond is a perfect fit. It's right that it took so long as it did, so he's comfortable with it, that he took so much time and was diligent and made the decision when he had the options. It meant the right mentality, right player. He's ambitious with self-belief and self-confidence, and he feels that he can reach the very top.
So, I mean, it's great quotes from Ange. I guess we'll never know the truth. Did he not go to Man United because they couldn't agree a deal? Was there a deal there and he decided that Tottenham was the best place? Was it this conversation with Ange that really convinced him, or was it just the fact that all the other deals kind of broke down, so he was kind of left with Tottenham? We'll never know. But all we know is I'm sure there was a conversation with Ange. I'm sure that before he joined, Ange really laid out how he sees him fitting into the team and all these different things, and I'm sure that would have appealed to him because, as I say, we're a team that is suited to the attacking players. And also I've heard from sort of various scout reports that he's quite a good presser. He's a hard worker as well. He's not one of these players who's a liability on that front. He does put in the hard yards, so I'm sure that would have appealed to Ange as well. So I guess we'll never know the truth, but I'm just happy he's here. And he said as well in the press conference that he was asked, was it an opportunity, or is Tel someone you really see as being part of like the long-term future of this club? And he said that he sees him as a part of the long-term future. So let's hope that everything does go well and that option does get kind of triggered in the summer, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the next couple of months and just seeing how he thrives in the system, how much game time he gets, and I'm sure he'll get a lot of game time. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how it goes because he's a player that I've really liked for the last couple of years, and I didn't think by any stretch of the imagination at the start of the transfer window that we could get him. But I do remember thinking when his name got linked to us when Kane was on the verge of moving to Bayern, I was really excited about the potential of getting him, but it wasn't obviously a possibility at that moment in time. But we've got him now, and let's just see how he does. In terms of another official transfer that Spurs have made for the academy is Mason Melia. That's been confirmed by the club. He's going to join in January of 2026 and has signed a contract until 2031. Irish wonder kid will cost 1.6 million plus add-ons in a deal from Sepp Pats. Due to the Brexit rules, he cannot join until January 2026, which is the first window after his 18th birthday. There were reports as well that Man City tried to sign him last year. Everton, Celtic, Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen also had a heavy interest in him. And he's actually a really interesting player. I've known about him actually for a while, and he made his debut in the Irish League at 15, and he's been scoring goals in that league. I mean, look, not like hefty amounts of goals, but he scored 6 goals last season and 2 goals this season, and literally burst onto the scene at the age of 15, which is madness in the men's league. Yeah, I know it's just the Irish league, but it is 15 when you're playing against the likes of 30-year-olds and late 20-year-olds and all that kind of stuff, and scoring goals as well at that time. So he is a real big talent coming out the Irish League, and I think it's quite a coup to get him in because of you look at the teams that were interested in him as well, and he's also part of the under-21 setup at this moment in time as well.
Yeah, I read somewhere as well that the fee we paid is some sort of a record fee. I don't know if it's a record fee for someone his age, or is it a record fee for that league? I think I read it was like some sort of a record fee for that league, but I don't know if it was like for any player or just for a teenager or something. But because how much? 1.6 million
plus add-ons. Yeah.
Apparently
it can go up to like 4 million.
Yeah, maybe. Do you reckon that could be a record for that league? Maybe.
There's also a 20% sell-on fee as well that go back to St. Pat's.
I see, which is great. So look, we really are building a super team of youngsters, aren't we, at this club? And obviously we really went on a binge of academy signings on deadline day. I can't remember all the names. We've got the guy from Liverpool, the guy from Chelsea, the guy from Man City, Batty. So maybe it's because we've got all these young players out on loan and even using them in a lot of few in the first team that were in the under-21s last season. So they really wanted to supplement that kind of level of football who had kind of been decimated just because they've done so well. So I think that's obviously caused it. But I think it's always good to look to the future. It seems as though that's something we're really heavily driving towards. Definitely over the last 18 months, the emphasis on youth players, giving them opportunities in the first team, bringing them through the academy. It's really exciting actually to see all these youth players performing so well. And let's hope maybe, obviously we're not going to reap the benefits of this probably until 3 or 4 years time. To be honest, we're not going to really see the fruits of this labour that we're putting it now. Even the guys on loan and all these different things, until everyone's together ready to contribute into the first team at Spurs, it's not going to be for a while. But you can see what they're trying to do and what they're trying to build, and I think it's an important thing. And I think that is one way to, if Levy is very much averse to paying large transfer fees, this is one other way to go around it, I guess, is to try and implement this kind of pipeline of youth players into the first team and try and churn out your own talent. And I'm sure that's kind of the end goal here.
It is the end goal, but it will take a very long time to put it all into where we see the real fruits of the labour. It will take a long time. But I heard as well, I read a report saying, not Melia, because he's not joining until next season, January, but the 3 players that we brought in on the last day that you were talking about, the plan is to get them in the academy playing for the under-21s from now into the end of the season, loan them out to championship teams next season, and see how they go from there.
It was quite interesting hearing, I guess maybe you have the quotes from Johan Lang, because he spoke and he said 80% of players who make their debuts in the Premier League have had a loan move. So he said it's very important for these guys to get their loan moves and get those experiences, because clearly that's you get a higher kind of hit rate when it comes to them making Premier League debuts and getting involved in the first team. So I think that is very important that these players get their time out on loan. But obviously people like Mikey Moore, he's such a special talent, you just got to keep him around.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I don't have those specific quotes from Johan Lang, but I do have some other quotes, because he did an interview on Spurs Play on Spurs YouTube yesterday talking about the transfer window, and he says we signed a new goalkeeper, new centre-back and a forward player, so yeah, overall we are very satisfied with that. Then he revealed that he watched Antonin Kinski in person around 12 times as part of the scouting process before signing him. And what was interesting as well, that he was talking about fans questioning why business wasn't done sooner in the window, and he said that's a fair question. We were ready to do business on the 1st of January, but it's not so easy to do that. And Lange did cite a change in the format of the UEFA competition as part of what made an already slow-moving window even more tedious across Europe this year. And the change he's talking about is obviously the league phase went all the way into the, we played Elfsborg, what was it, 4 days or something before the transfer window shut. So teams wanted to hold on to their players a bit longer than maybe usual in the January transfer window.
Yeah, and I think that does make sense. However, Lens weren't in Europe, so I don't think it really matters when it comes to Danso. That probably could have been done earlier, in my opinion. Especially there were rumours that they were demanding 30 million euros earlier in the window. Spurs booked that price, and then we ended up getting him for 25. So the fact that we got that money off tells me that we were willing to do it later on, maybe as well with the added desperation of Dragoshin doing his ACL, rather than paying that extra money earlier in the window to get him in a timely manner. So I don't quite buy it with the Danso one. Tel I kind of do, because we know that the news that Tel wanted to leave only really broke in the last week of the window. He even started in their last Champions League game. So
that news actually broke before that Champions League game, and then he started.
And then he started. But it makes sense that deal probably could have only been done for someone like him in the last week. But I think Danso could have been done earlier, and I think I think it is a valid excuse to an extent. I mean, that's implying that we're only looking at players that are coming from teams in Europe. I mean, obviously, as in European competition, I should say. And I don't think that's the case, because there are plenty of other talent out there which from teams that aren't playing in Europe that we could have got from. So I think it does complicate things more than it should, but is an excuse for not being able to get anyone. I'm not quite sure.
I don't really buy it, to be honest. I really don't, because what you say about Danso with him not being in Europe, then why did it take us so long to get a centre-back in? Why did it take us so long to get him in? It's because they're trying to scrimp and save a few million here and there. That's what it comes down to. It's nothing to do with European competition, in my opinion. But last but not least, we've got some quotes from Jed Spence, and he's talking about the game tomorrow night, and he says, I back myself against any winger, Salah or whoever. I back myself against anyone. And he says, it's been difficult, but we fight for the manager, we fight for the club, and, you know, we all believe in what he wants to do. So interesting, strong quotes from Jed Spence. And it'll be easy for Jed Spence, you know, to get the hump about with Ange for not giving him his chance until, you know, quite far into the season, where, you know, he had a clear opportunity where he could have played Spence. But it shows maybe some good head on his shoulders now, because, you know, there's been clear things about his attitude over the previous, since he's joined Spurs. And this year it seems like maybe he grew up a lot on his loan spell last year in Genoa, because he's come back and he's really fighting for his spot, and he's a credit to the team whenever he steps on the pitch.
Yeah, and cast your mind back to, I think it was the Bournemouth game, when obviously Ange was having a bit of an altercation with the fans, and the first player to step in defence of Ange on the pitch was Spence. And I think at that point, I don't even think he'd made that appearance against Southampton yet, I think, at that point. So he wasn't really playing much in the team. So clearly he was one who was always got on with the manager. But for one reason or another, Ange didn't choose to play him as much as he should have earlier in the season. But obviously he's giving him his chance now, and he's taking it with both hands. And to be fair to Spence, whenever he's come across a really great winger, he really has kind of stood up to the challenge. I know, obviously, he kept Salah really quiet in the first leg. He was brilliant against Mbeumo on the weekend. Even, I know we lost the game 6-3, so, you know, and Salah scored twice, so maybe you can't really say he did it. But I thought, even in that game, in the 6-3 game, I thought whenever Salah was in a one-on-one duel with Spence, more often than not, Spence was the one coming out on top. And it was kind of Salah taking advantage of Gray and Dragoshin more than Spence in that game. So I think Spence has done really well up against, in his one-on-one duels against the wingers in most games. He's come in defensively anyway. So I think he's right to back himself. Obviously, going to Anfield, different kettle of fish, different pressures. He's going to have to do it with that, you know, the cop in full voice and all these different things. And Salah's in unbelievable form. Just got 2 goals on the weekend, but Jed Spence is in great form himself. Just had a brilliant performance against Brentford, so I'm sure he's confident he can take on anyone right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So big words from Jed Spence there, and I'm pretty sure he's going to, you know, perform really well, as he has been doing pretty much every time he stepped on the pitch. So big up to Jed Spence. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Now